guys, my name is Steve Harper. I am the CEO and founder of The Ripple Effect and also the creator of the 8-Minute Ripple. I've had some people recently ask me, what is the 8-Minute Ripple and why did I create it? So I wanted to give a little bit of backstory and history of the event and explain a little bit about the magic I've seen at the 8-Minute Ripple. So a little disclaimer, professional networking, even though I wrote a book about it, is not something that I come by naturally. In fact, I'm introverted and shy, which makes networking a real challenge for me. I don't like the pomp and circumstance of professional networking where you actually have to have the business card shoved in somebody's face, the 30-second elevator pitch, and that, outward promotion of your product or service. I see so many professionals that have really good story, but they miss it because they're too busy promoting themselves in business to actually connect or engage with someone who might actually be interested. So we actually created this 8-Minute Ripple to basically take all that pressure away. We don't let you talk about business, we don't let you talk about anything that denotes status, and we just equalize the playing field. And then we created some questions, we call them Ripple Connection questions, that make it real simple and easy for people to engage with one another and learn their story. The goal behind the questions are they're fun to ask and fun to answer, and they're designed to help you actually figure out what we call a connection point. Something that makes that individual that you're talking to unique to you. You don't get that with business titles, you don't get that with business cards, and you sure as heck don't get it when you're talking about what someone does professionally. The reality is the process of connecting and engaging can be very fun, and it doesn't have to be intimidating, which is why we created the 8-Minute Ripple. Come to an event. We do them for corporations. We do them for conferences. I do them publicly to give people a completely different networking experience. And they're really designed to help people really get out of their shell and learn how fun the process of connecting with another human being can be. So a buddy of mine asked me to share a story, which I thought might be relevant here because I wanted to give you an insight as to the magic that happens with an 8-Minute Ripple. It was actually one of our first events that we did way back when. We've been doing these things for, what seems like forever, but about 13 years now. And one of the first events that we threw, we put together these groups, and we put our groups together in what we call ponds, keeping with the water theme, if you will. And basically what we did was we actually put 8 people together and we provide the questions, and every 8 minutes you pick a new partner. And there was a startup entrepreneur who really looked like a startup entrepreneur. I mean, this guy looked like he hadn't slept, maybe bathed in 2 weeks. And then we had this more executive type, very well put together, very executive oriented, let's say. And these guys had naturally avoided connecting with one another every time that we did a partner switch, and it was kind of funny. But they eventually ended up having to engage, and it was kind of funny, like almost out of, okay, fine, I'll do it, pulls a question out, and the question that they got was, what is a hobby that most people would be surprised you're really into? And it turned out that the startup entrepreneur asked the question, and the executive type says, well, I'm really into scuba diving. And you saw the change. There's a lot of things that happen in networking environments where there's a lot of judgment. Prejudgment, judge a book by its cover, you've heard that for years. We tell ourselves stories about what person is in front of us even before they've opened their mouth. And you saw the minute that this question got answered, how all of a sudden all of that prejudgment left the startup entrepreneur's face, because he immediately jumped in and he's like, me too. And the next thing you know, these two guys are just jamming. They're having a conversation about what equipment that they use, what different trips they've gone on, where some of the best diving spots are, some of the best diving companies to book with. And in 8 minutes, these guys covered an enormous amount of territory. And what was pretty amazing about that was you just saw everything that might have otherwise prevented them from connecting, engaging, just drip away. I went to him at the end of the event and I said, hey, look, guys, I got to ask you a question. If you guys had met one another at a Chamber of Commerce event or, any other business networking event, would you have naturally gravitated to one another or engaged? And the executive type, being a little bit more politically correct, we shall say, says, no, I don't think so. You mentioned, judging a book by its cover, I would have probably done that, and he's not someone I would naturally gravitate to. Startup entrepreneur, a little more direct. He's like, hell no, that guy's a suit. I wouldn't talk to a suit. But the reality is the power of the event and the power of a question allowed these two guys to come together and find something that they had in common, which was absolutely cool. Now, it gets even better because we learn later that these two guys end up throwing in together on a startup and are now out in California working on a company. It's an amazing, amazing story relative to the outcome, but none of that would have happened had they just done what everybody else does at a networking event. So, what do you do? Oh, fascinating. Here's what I do. And you move on. The reality is, the 8-Minute Ripple is one of those events that allows you to be yourself and allows you to find other people that want to do the same, and you allow yourself to connect and engage and be open to the possibility that the connections that you really need to have in your personal and professional network are out there, just waiting. And it may just take a question, a ripple connection question, to find them, but they're there. So that's a little bit of the backstory and a kind of a cool story about the power of the ripple. I see this magic all the time. I see people that would not normally engage or connect with one another find that they have a lot more in common when they set aside all the prejudgment and all the pre-stories they tell themselves and actually just allow themselves to be open to a little bit of conversation. And it happens in networking environments, it happens in companies where coworkers have naturally not worked all that well together or didn't know all that much about each other, now find that they have a lot more in common when they allow themselves to open up and allow themselves to engage at a deeper, more meaningful level. So that's a little bit of the backstory and the history of the 8-Minute Ripple. I hope that if we can find an opportunity to do one for your company or in your hometown, wherever that might be, you contact us and let us know, because the 8-Minute Ripple has the power to make a change, and it mainly has the ability to make you a better connector and engager, which is really what you want to do out there in the world anyway, right? Find those connections, find a way to continue to ripple on. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon. Ripple on.